Top secret UFO stories. The world ignored. The morning sun cast long shadows across the New Mexico desert as rancher Mac Brazel stepped out of his modest farmhouse, coffee mug in hand. It was July 8, 1947, and the events of the previous night still echoed in his mind like distant thunder. The metallic debris scattered across his property defied explanation, and the strange symbols etched into the lightweight materials seemed to mock everything he thought he knew about the world. But Mac's discovery would soon become just one thread in a vast tapestry of encounters that governments around the globe would work tirelessly to suppress, ignore, or explain away. Stories that challenged the very foundations of our understanding. Stories that asked uncomfortable questions about humanity's place in the universe. What you're about to hear are the accounts they hoped would disappear into the desert sand of history. The testimonies they buried beneath layers of classified documents and official denials. These are the stories of ordinary people who witnessed the extraordinary, only to find themselves silenced by powers they couldn't comprehend. The truth, as they say, is out there, but sometimes it's hidden in plain sight, wrapped in the mundane language of weather balloons and swamp gas. Sometimes it's locked away in underground facilities, where the very existence of certain technologies remains classified decades after their discovery. And sometimes, just sometimes, it slips through the cracks in the form of testimonies too detailed to dismiss and too persistent to forget. In the decades following that fateful summer in Roswell, a pattern began to emerge. Across continents and cultures, people from all walks of life reported encounters with phenomena that shouldn't exist according to our current understanding of physics and technology. Military personnel trained to observe and report found themselves facing craft that moved in ways that violated the laws of aerodynamics. Scientists with decades of experience examined materials that seemed to remember their original shape, no matter how they were manipulated. Ordinary citizens looked up at the night sky and saw lights performing impossible maneuvers, only to be told later that they had imagined it all. The Zamora incident in Socorro, New Mexico, stands as one of the most compelling cases in this hidden history. On April 24, 1964, Police Sergeant Lonnie Zamora was pursuing a speeding car when he heard a roar and saw a flame in the sky. Following the disturbance to a remote area outside town, Zamora discovered something that would change his life forever. In a small arroyo, he observed an oval-shaped craft, roughly the size of a car, sitting on what appeared to be landing legs. Nearby, two figures in white coveralls seemed to be examining the object. As Zamora approached to investigate, the beings noticed him and quickly entered the craft. Within moments, the object rose from the ground with a deafening roar and disappeared into the desert sky, leaving behind scorched earth and deep impressions in the sand where the landing gear had rested. The case was investigated by the Air Force's Project Blue Book, the FBI, and numerous other agencies. Physical evidence was collected, photographed, and analyzed. Yet despite the credibility of the witness and the abundance of physical evidence, the case was eventually filed away and forgotten by mainstream history. What made Zamora's account particularly troubling for those who preferred to keep such stories quiet was his impeccable reputation. He was a decorated police officer, a family man, and a pillar of his community. He had nothing to gain and everything to lose by reporting what he had seen. His story never changed, even under intense scrutiny from investigators who seemed more interested in discrediting him than understanding what had occurred. The Zamora incident represents just one piece of a much larger puzzle that spans decades and continents. In the forests of Rendlesham, England, American servicemen stationed at RAF Bentwaters encountered something that defied conventional explanation. In the skies above Belgium, F-16 fighter jets chased triangular objects that outmaneuvered the most advanced aircraft in the world. In the remote wilderness of Alaska, radar operators tracked objects moving at speeds that should have torn apart any known material. Each incident followed a familiar pattern. Initial reports would surface, often from highly credible witnesses with impeccable reputations. Investigations would begin, evidence would be collected, and official statements would be prepared. Then, almost invariably, the stories would change. Weather balloons would be blamed for objects that had been tracked on multiple radar systems. Atmospheric phenomena would be cited to explain craft that had left physical traces. Witnesses would be discredited, transferred, or simply ignored until their stories faded from public memory. But some stories refused to die. Some witnesses refused to be silenced, and some evidence proved too compelling to explain away, no matter how creative the official explanations became. The Belgian wave of 1989-1990 stands as one of the most thoroughly documented series of UFO encounters in history. Over the course of several months, thousands of witnesses across Belgium reported seeing large triangular craft moving silently through the night sky. The objects were tracked on radar, photographed by credible witnesses, and pursued by military aircraft. The Belgian military, unlike their counterparts in other nations, took an unusually open approach to the phenomenon, sharing radar data and witness testimonies with the public. What emerged from the Belgian investigation was a picture of technology that seemed decades ahead of anything in the known aerospace arsenal. The triangular craft displayed capabilities that challenged fundamental assumptions about propulsion and materials science. They could hover motionless for extended periods, then accelerate to incredible speeds without producing sonic booms. They showed up clearly on radar, ruling out atmospheric phenomena or misidentification of conventional aircraft. Most disturbing of all, they seemed to demonstrate an awareness of the military response, often disappearing just as interceptor aircraft arrived in their vicinity. The Belgian authorities' willingness to discuss the phenomenon openly created an uncomfortable precedent for other governments. If one nation could acknowledge the reality of unexplained aerial phenomena without descending into chaos, what excuse did others have for maintaining their walls of secrecy? The answer, it seemed, lay not in protecting the public from panic, but in protecting institutional authority from questions that had no comfortable answers. Dr. Jacques Vallée, a computer scientist and long-time researcher of unexplained phenomena, has argued that the pattern of secrecy surrounding these incidents serves a purpose beyond simple information control. In his view, the systematic debunking and ridicule of witnesses serves to maintain what he calls a psychosocial control system that shapes human beliefs about the nature of reality itself. By carefully managing which stories are taken seriously and which are dismissed, authorities can influence not just what people believe about UFOs, but how they think about the boundaries of the possible. This control system becomes apparent when examining the treatment of different types of witnesses. Military personnel, with their training in observation and their commitment to following orders, represent a particular challenge for those seeking to maintain secrecy. When a fighter pilot reports an encounter with an unidentified craft, the implications go far beyond a simple UFO sighting. Such reports suggest that unknown entities are operating in controlled airspace with impunity, demonstrating technologies that could render existing defense systems obsolete. The response to such reports follows a predictable pattern. The witness is debriefed, often multiple times, by investigators who seem more interested in finding flaws in the account than understanding what occurred. Official explanations are crafted that focus on the limitations of human perception rather than the capabilities of the observed phenomenon. Career consequences, both subtle and overt, discourage other military personnel from coming forward with similar accounts. This systematic suppression of military witnesses has been documented by researchers who have interviewed hundreds of former service members under conditions of anonymity. The stories they tell paint a picture of a parallel world where extraordinary encounters are routine, but discussing them openly is career suicide. Pilots describe being ordered to intercept objects that outperformed their aircraft by orders of magnitude. Radar operators speak of tracking formations of craft that appeared and disappeared without explanation. Ground personnel recall recovering debris from crash sites, only to have their memories officially declared classified. The technological implications of these encounters cannot be overstated. If even a fraction of the reported capabilities are real, they suggest the existence of propulsion systems that operate on principles unknown to mainstream science. Objects that can accelerate instantly without producing G-forces that would crush human occupants. Craft that can become invisible to both visual observation and radar detection. Materials that exhibit properties that seem to violate conservation of energy. The scientific establishment's response to such claims has been one of systematic denial rather than investigation. The very possibility that such technologies might exist is dismissed as incompatible with known physics, despite the fact that the history of science is filled with discoveries that overturned previous assumptions about the nature of reality. The reluctance to seriously investigate these phenomena stems not from scientific rigor, but from institutional inertia and the career risks associated with studying topics that have been relegated to the realm of pseudoscience. Yet beneath the surface of official denial, serious research has continued in classified programs that operate beyond public scrutiny. Government documents released through Freedom of Information Act requests reveal the existence of projects with names like Project Blue Book, the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, and the Unidentified Aerial Phenomena Task Force. These programs, while officially described as efforts to assess potential threats from foreign adversaries, have collected thousands of reports that describe capabilities far beyond anything in the known technological arsenal of any nation. The pattern that emerges from these classified investigations is one of phenomena that appear to be under intelligent control, demonstrating technologies that seem to be decades or centuries ahead of current human capabilities. The craft described in these reports operate according to principles that suggest a fundamental understanding of physics that goes far beyond our current knowledge. They manipulate gravity, electromagnetic fields, and space-time itself in ways that our science says should be impossible. The implications of this hidden reality extend far beyond questions of technology or national security. If these phenomena represent contact with non-human intelligence, they challenge fundamental assumptions about humanity's place in the universe. The possibility that we are not alone, that we are not the most advanced intelligence in our cosmic neighborhood, forces us to reconsider not just our science and technology, but our philosophy, religion, and sense of purpose as a species. The stories that have been suppressed, ignored, and ridiculed over the decades represent more than just unexplained phenomena. They represent glimpses of a reality that is far stranger and more wonderful than we have been allowed to believe. They suggest that the universe is filled with intelligences and technologies that operate according to principles we are only beginning to understand. And they hint at the possibility that contact between humanity and these intelligences has been occurring for far longer than anyone in positions of authority has been willing to admit. The truth of these encounters may never be fully revealed through official channels. Too many careers, institutions, and worldviews depend on maintaining the status quo of denial and ridicule. But the stories persist, passed down through generations of witnesses who refuse to be silenced. They accumulate in the margins of history, waiting for a time when humanity is ready to confront the reality of what lies beyond our current understanding. In the quiet moments between sleep and waking, when the mind is most open to possibilities that daylight logic would reject, these stories whisper their truths. They speak of a universe far more vast and mysterious than we have dared to imagine. They tell of encounters that challenge everything we think we know about the nature of reality itself, and they remind us that sometimes the most important truths are the ones that those in power work hardest to keep hidden. The desert winds still blow across the ranch where Mac Brazel first encountered the impossible. The skies above Belgium still hide secrets that radar cannot fully explain. The forests of Rendlesham still echo with the memory of lights that should not have existed. And somewhere, in facilities that do not officially exist, the physical evidence of these encounters continues to be studied by scientists who are sworn to secrecy. These are the stories the world ignored, the testimonies that were buried beneath layers of classification and ridicule, the encounters that challenged the boundaries of the possible and were punished for their audacity. But truth has a way of surviving even the most determined efforts to suppress it. It persists in the memories of witnesses who refuse to forget. It hides in the margins of official documents that reveal more than they were meant to. And it waits, patient as the desert itself, for the day when humanity is finally ready to confront the reality of what lies beyond the comfortable boundaries of accepted knowledge. That day may be closer than we think. The walls of secrecy that have protected these truths for decades are beginning to crack. Official acknowledgements of unexplained phenomena are becoming more frequent. Scientific institutions are slowly beginning to recognize that some questions deserve investigation rather than dismissal, and a new generation of researchers, unencumbered by the career fears that silenced their predecessors, is approaching these mysteries with the tools and methods of rigorous science. The stories you have heard tonight are just the beginning. They represent the tip of an iceberg that extends far deeper into the hidden history of human contact with the unknown. Each account opens doors to questions that lead to even more profound mysteries. Each witness who finds the courage to speak truth to power makes it easier for others to step forward with their own encounters with the impossible. The universe is vast beyond human comprehension, filled with wonders that we are only beginning to glimpse. The stories of those who have encountered these wonders remind us that reality is far stranger and more beautiful than we have been taught to believe. They challenge us to expand our understanding of what is possible and to embrace the mystery of our place in a cosmos that continues to surprise us with its infinite capacity for the extraordinary. In the end, these suppressed stories serve as a reminder that truth cannot be contained indefinitely. No matter how powerful the forces arrayed against it, no matter how sophisticated the systems designed to suppress it, truth has a way of finding the light. It may take decades or centuries, but eventually, the reality of what lies beyond our current understanding will be acknowledged and embraced by humanity as a whole. Until that day comes, these stories will continue to be told in whispers and shadows, passed down from those who have seen to those who are ready to hear. They will persist in the quiet corners of the internet, in the private conversations of researchers and witnesses, and in the dreams of those who dare to imagine that we are not alone in this vast and mysterious universe. The truth is out there, waiting to be discovered. The question is not whether we will find it, but whether we will have the courage to accept it when we do. While Roswell dominated headlines, countless other incidents were quietly suppressed, their evidence confiscated, and their witnesses silenced through systematic campaigns of ridicule and fear. The pattern of cover-up extends far beyond a single crash site in New Mexico. From the remote forests of Canada to the busy airspace over military installations, encounters with unidentified craft have been met with swift government intervention designed not to investigate, but to contain. These operations reveal a coordinated effort spanning decades, involving multiple agencies and sophisticated disinformation campaigns that have successfully buried some of the most compelling evidence of non-human intelligence visiting our planet. Consider the Falcon Lake incident of 1967, where Stefan Michalak encountered a landed craft in the Manitoba wilderness. Unlike Roswell's desert isolation, this occurred near populated areas with multiple witnesses. Michalak suffered physical burns in a distinct grid pattern across his chest, documented by medical professionals. The radioactive readings at the landing site persisted for months. Yet despite overwhelming physical evidence, Canadian authorities dismissed the case, and Michalak faced decades of ridicule and harassment. The incident began when Michalak, an amateur geologist, was prospecting near Falcon Lake. He observed two disc-shaped objects descend from the sky, one landing nearby while the other hovered before departing. Approaching what he initially thought was an experimental aircraft, Michalak heard voices inside speaking what sounded like English, then possibly Russian. When he called out offering assistance, the craft suddenly tilted, exposing its underside, which expelled a burst of hot gas directly onto his chest, burning through his shirt and undershirt in a precise geometric pattern. The burns were unlike anything doctors had seen, not random heat damage, but organized perforations that suggested some form of directed energy. Michalak became violently ill with symptoms consistent with radiation exposure. Soil samples from the landing site showed elevated radiation levels that persisted for years. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police investigated extensively, but found no conventional explanation. Despite this, the incident was officially dismissed as a hoax, and Michalak spent the remainder of his life defending his account against systematic debunking efforts. This pattern repeats across continents. In Australia, the Westall incident of 1966 involved over 200 witnesses, including teachers and students, who observed multiple unidentified craft near a Melbourne school. Despite numerous credible eyewitnesses, the event was quickly suppressed. Students were told never to speak of what they saw, teachers were transferred, and photographs disappeared. The official line claimed the witnesses had seen a weather balloon, despite the object's clearly observed controlled flight patterns and impossible maneuvers. The speed and coordination of these cover-up operations suggest pre-existing protocols for handling UFO encounters. Within hours of the Westall sighting, military personnel arrived at the school, confiscating any physical evidence and interviewing witnesses individually. The message was clear: what you saw didn't happen, and discussing it further would have consequences. This systematic approach indicates not just reactive damage control, but proactive suppression policies designed to prevent information from reaching public attention. In Brazil, the Varginha incident of 1996 involved multiple crashed objects and alleged recovery of non-human beings. Local fire department records documented unusual emergency calls, military vehicles were photographed in the area, and hospital staff reported treating beings with non-human anatomy. Yet Brazilian authorities denied any unusual activity, claiming the witnesses had seen injured animals from a local zoo, animals that the zoo confirmed were all accounted for and healthy. The technological capabilities demonstrated in these suppressed cases often exceed our current understanding of physics. Witnesses consistently report craft performing maneuvers that would destroy any conventional aircraft: instantaneous acceleration, right-angle turns at high speed, and hovering without visible means of propulsion. The energy signatures detected at landing sites suggest propulsion systems far beyond our technological capabilities, yet this evidence is systematically ignored or dismissed by mainstream science. Perhaps most revealing is the pattern of witness intimidation that follows significant sightings. The Men in Black phenomenon, while often dismissed as folklore, represents a very real campaign of psychological warfare against UFO witnesses. These operations involve sophisticated surveillance, harassment techniques, and disinformation designed to discredit and silence those who have encountered the phenomenon. Former intelligence officers have confirmed the existence of such programs, though their specific details remain classified. The Travis Walton abduction case of 1975 provides another example of systematic suppression despite overwhelming evidence. Walton's disappearance was witnessed by 6 co-workers who passed multiple polygraph examinations. His return 5 days later, with detailed accounts of his experiences aboard an unidentified craft, was met with immediate attempts at debunking. Despite consistent witness testimony and Walton's own polygraph results, the case was dismissed as an elaborate hoax, with investigators focusing on discrediting the witnesses rather than examining the evidence. The psychological impact on witnesses cannot be overstated. Many report being followed, their phones tapped, their careers destroyed, and their families threatened. The message is clear. Speaking about UFO encounters will result in personal and professional devastation. This systematic intimidation has been remarkably effective in preventing credible witnesses from coming forward, creating an environment where even the most compelling encounters remain hidden from public view. Government documents released through Freedom of Information Act requests reveal the extent of official interest in UFO phenomena. Despite public denials, internal communications show serious concern about the implications of these encounters for national security. The Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, revealed in 2017, confirmed that the U.S. government has been continuously investigating UFO encounters, even while publicly dismissing them as misidentifications or hoaxes. The technological analysis conducted by these secret programs reveals capabilities that challenge our fundamental understanding of physics. The craft observed demonstrate mastery over gravitational forces, electromagnetic fields, and space-time itself. The implications are staggering. If these technologies could be understood and replicated, they would revolutionize human civilization overnight. Yet this research remains hidden behind walls of classification and denial. International cooperation in UFO suppression suggests a global conspiracy of silence. Documents from various countries show coordination between intelligence agencies in handling UFO incidents. The 1952 Robertson Panel recommended that UFO reports be debunked and ridiculed to reduce public interest, a policy that appears to have been adopted worldwide. This coordinated suppression has been remarkably successful in maintaining the illusion that UFO encounters are rare, unreliable, or explainable through conventional means. The impact on scientific progress has been profound. Researchers who attempt to study UFO phenomena seriously face career suicide, loss of funding, and professional ostracism. This has created a self-perpetuating cycle where the scientific community avoids the subject, allowing the suppression to continue unchallenged. Meanwhile, the most advanced technologies ever witnessed on Earth remain unstudied and unexploited. The cost of this suppression extends beyond missed technological opportunities. Humanity has been denied knowledge of our cosmic context, our place in a universe that clearly contains other intelligent life. The psychological and philosophical implications of contact with non-human intelligence have been stolen from us, replaced with manufactured ignorance and artificial isolation. Yet despite decades of sophisticated suppression, the truth continues to emerge. Too many witnesses, too much evidence, and too many credible sources have come forward for the cover-up to remain intact indefinitely. The recent acknowledgement by government officials that UFO encounters represent genuine unknowns marks a crack in the wall of denial that has stood for over 70 years. The question is no longer whether we are being visited by non-human intelligence. The evidence for that conclusion is overwhelming for those willing to examine it objectively. The question is why this information has been suppressed, what those in power hope to gain by maintaining our ignorance, and what revelations await when the full truth finally emerges from the shadows where it has been hidden for so long. The stories we've explored represent just a fraction of the encounters that have been systematically suppressed. For every Roswell, there are dozens of equally compelling cases that never reached public attention. For every witness who spoke out despite the consequences, there are hundreds who remained silent in fear. The true scope of the UFO phenomenon, and our government's knowledge of it, remains hidden behind layers of classification and denial that may finally be beginning to crack. As we stand on the threshold of potential disclosure, we must remember that the truth has always been there, preserved in the testimony of brave witnesses and the dedication of researchers who refuse to be silenced. The secrets that have been kept from us may soon be revealed, fundamentally changing our understanding of reality and our place in the cosmos. The world ignored these stories for decades, but the truth has a way of surfacing, no matter how deeply it's buried. The evidence was mounting, but so was the resistance. Every breakthrough in understanding these phenomena seemed to trigger an equal and opposite force of suppression. The pattern was becoming undeniable, a systematic campaign to keep humanity in the dark about what was truly happening in our skies. As researchers delved deeper into the classified world of UFO investigations, they uncovered something far more disturbing than crashed spacecraft or alien encounters. They discovered an intricate network of disinformation, witness intimidation, and scientific ridicule that had been operating for decades. This wasn't mere government secrecy. This was active manipulation of public consciousness on a global scale. The Air Force Office of Special Investigations had developed sophisticated protocols for handling UFO incidents. Former intelligence officer Richard Doty revealed how the system worked from the inside. Special agents with code names like 9Q were trained in what the manual euphemistically called deception operations. These weren't just cover-ups. They were elaborate psychological warfare campaigns designed to confuse, discredit, and silence witnesses. The techniques were remarkably effective. When civilians reported genuine encounters, they would often find themselves visited by mysterious men claiming to be government officials. These visitors would confiscate evidence, demand silence, and sometimes feed witnesses false information designed to make them appear mentally unstable if they ever spoke publicly. The goal wasn't just to hide the truth. It was to make the truth itself seem impossible to believe. This strategy of controlled confusion extended far beyond individual witness intimidation. Major media outlets were fed stories that would either ridicule UFO witnesses or promote obviously false explanations. Weather balloons became the default explanation for everything, no matter how poorly they fit the observed phenomena. Swamp gas, temperature inversions, and Venus were trotted out with such frequency that they became running jokes among researchers. Yet the public largely accepted these explanations without question. The scientific community played a crucial role in this suppression. Researchers who dared to investigate UFO phenomena seriously found their funding cut, their papers rejected, and their careers destroyed. The Condon Committee, officially known as the University of Colorado UFO Project, was presented as an objective scientific study, but was designed from the beginning to debunk the phenomenon. Internal memos revealed that the conclusion was predetermined. UFOs posed no threat to national security and deserved no further scientific attention. Dr. James McDonald, a respected atmospheric physicist at the University of Arizona, discovered this predetermined conclusion and spoke out against it. His career was systematically destroyed. Funding for his research dried up, his reputation was attacked, and he was subjected to intense personal harassment. In 1971, MacDonald died by suicide, leaving behind a note expressing despair over his inability to convince the scientific community to take UFO phenomena seriously. MacDonald's fate served as a warning to other scientists. The message was clear: investigate UFOs at your own peril. This created a self-reinforcing cycle of silence. Scientists avoided the topic because it was considered career suicide, which meant there was no legitimate scientific research being conducted, which justified the position that UFOs weren't worthy of scientific attention. The suppression extended into the highest levels of government. Presidents were briefed on UFO incidents, but were often given sanitized versions that downplayed their significance. When Jimmy Carter, who had himself witnessed a UFO, promised during his campaign to release all government UFO files, he was quietly discouraged once in office. The few documents that were eventually released through Freedom of Information Act requests were so heavily redacted as to be nearly meaningless. International cooperation in suppression became evident through organizations like the Robertson Panel, which established global protocols for handling UFO reports. Similar patterns of debunking and ridicule emerged simultaneously in countries around the world, suggesting coordinated efforts that transcended national boundaries. The same explanations appeared in different languages, the same debunking techniques were employed across cultures, and the same scientific authorities dismissed the phenomena using identical arguments. The psychological impact of this systematic suppression cannot be overstated. Witnesses learned to stay silent rather than face ridicule and harassment. Scientists learned to avoid the topic rather than risk their careers. Journalists learned to treat UFO stories as entertainment rather than news. The phenomenon became increasingly marginalized, pushed into the realm of tabloid sensationalism and science fiction fantasy. But the suppression revealed something significant about the phenomenon itself. You don't mount a decades-long, multi-billion-dollar campaign to hide something that doesn't exist. The very intensity of the cover-up suggested that whatever was being hidden was of extraordinary importance. The resources devoted to suppression, the specialized military units, the psychological operations, the international coordination, implied that the truth was considered a genuine threat to established power structures. This realization led some researchers to look beyond the nuts and bolts aspects of UFO encounters toward the broader implications of the phenomenon. Perhaps the real threat wasn't invasion by hostile aliens, but revelation of humanity's true place in the cosmos. Perhaps the fear wasn't that extraterrestrials would conquer Earth, but that their existence would fundamentally challenge religious, political, and economic systems that depended on humanity believing it was alone and supreme in the universe. The pattern of suppression also revealed the profound vulnerability of human consciousness to manipulation. The same techniques used to hide UFO reality were being employed to shape public opinion on countless other issues. The creation of false narratives, the strategic use of ridicule, the marginalization of inconvenient witnesses. These methods weren't unique to UFO cover-ups. They were tools of control that could be applied to any truth that threatened established power. Some researchers began to see the UFO phenomenon as a kind of mirror, reflecting not just the reality of extraterrestrial visitation, but the reality of human psychological and social control. The flying saucers themselves might be extraordinary, but the response to them revealed something equally extraordinary about the nature of power, secrecy, and social manipulation in modern society. The technological capabilities demonstrated by these craft, instantaneous acceleration, gravity-defying maneuvers, seamless material construction, suggested knowledge that could revolutionize human civilization. Free energy, faster-than-light travel, gravity manipulation. These weren't just technological advances, they were paradigm-shifting discoveries that could end scarcity, open the cosmos to exploration, and fundamentally transform human existence. But such transformations would also threaten every existing power structure. Oil companies would become obsolete if free energy technology were revealed. Military-industrial complexes would lose their relevance if war became impossible between civilizations with access to such advanced technology. Religious institutions would face existential questions about humanity's place in God's creation if it became clear we were neither alone nor particularly special in the cosmic order. The suppression, therefore, wasn't just about hiding the existence of extraterrestrial visitors. It was about preserving a social, economic, and psychological order that depended on scarcity, conflict, and human isolation. The truth about UFOs wasn't just a revelation about visitors from other worlds. It was a revelation about the artificial limitations placed on human potential and consciousness. As the evidence accumulated and the patterns of suppression became clearer, a growing number of researchers, military personnel, and government officials began speaking out, despite the personal costs. The weight of secrecy was becoming unbearable for those who knew the truth. Deathbed confessions from former military officers revealed decades of hidden knowledge. Leaked documents provided glimpses into the true scope of government UFO programs. Whistleblowers risked everything to share what they knew. These revelations created cracks in the wall of silence that had been so carefully constructed over decades. Each new disclosure emboldened others to come forward. Each leaked document led to demands for more transparency. Each witness testimony added weight to the growing body of evidence that could no longer be ignored or explained away. The internet age accelerated this process of disclosure. Information that once could be easily suppressed or marginalized now spread instantly across global networks. Amateur researchers could analyze and cross-reference data in ways that were previously impossible. The old gatekeepers of information, government agencies, major media outlets, academic institutions, found their monopoly on truth-telling increasingly challenged by distributed networks of investigation and communication. Yet even as disclosure accelerated, the forces of suppression adapted and evolved. New forms of disinformation emerged, designed not to deny the existence of UFO phenomena, but to confuse and misdirect understanding of their true nature and implications. The strategy shifted from complete denial to controlled revelation, releasing just enough truth to satisfy public curiosity while maintaining deeper secrets that could destabilize existing power structures. The battle for UFO truth became a microcosm of larger struggles over information, power, and human consciousness. It revealed how truth could be weaponized, how reality could be shaped through narrative control, and how the most profound discoveries could be hidden in plain sight through the simple expedient of making them seem impossible to believe. As we stand at the threshold of what may be the greatest revelation in human history, the patterns of suppression that have hidden UFO reality for decades serve as both warning and instruction. They warn us of the lengths to which entrenched power will go to maintain control over truth and consciousness. But they also instruct us in the methods by which such control can be challenged and overcome. The web of silence that has hidden UFO reality is finally beginning to unravel. But the process of disclosure reveals that the truth about these phenomena is far more complex and consequential than simple acknowledgement of extraterrestrial visitation. It touches the very foundations of human civilization, consciousness, and cosmic identity. The question is no longer whether we are alone in the universe, but whether we are ready for the implications of knowing we never were. Following the establishment of official secrecy protocols, we now examine the sophisticated mechanisms employed to discredit witnesses, manipulate evidence, and control public perception. The apparatus of denial operates through multiple channels, each designed to reinforce the others in a web of coordinated misdirection. Intelligence agencies have developed psychological profiles of UFO witnesses, categorizing them into manageable groups for targeted discrediting campaigns. Scientists who dare to investigate anomalous phenomena face career destruction through peer pressure, funding cuts, and professional isolation. Media outlets receive guidance on how to frame UFO stories, ensuring they appear ridiculous or explainable through conventional means. One particularly insidious tactic involves the deliberate creation of false UFO incidents designed to be easily debunked. When genuine sightings occur, these manufactured hoaxes are strategically revealed to the public, creating a climate of skepticism that casts doubt on all UFO reports. This technique, known as poisoning the well, has proven remarkably effective at maintaining public disbelief, even in the face of compelling evidence. The military-industrial complex has developed sophisticated technologies specifically for UFO-related psychological operations. Project Looking Glass, a classified program that allegedly involved advanced surveillance and manipulation techniques, was reportedly used to monitor and influence UFO researchers and witnesses. Documents obtained through whistleblower sources suggest that advanced holographic projection systems have been deployed to create false UFO sightings in strategic locations, further muddying the waters of legitimate investigation. Witness intimidation has evolved far beyond the crude threats of the early decades. Modern suppression techniques employ sophisticated psychological warfare, including electronic harassment, surveillance, and systematic discrediting through social engineering. Witnesses report experiencing sudden financial difficulties, employment problems, and social isolation that appears coordinated but remains plausibly deniable. The Men in Black phenomenon has been replaced by more subtle forms of intimidation that leave no clear evidence of government involvement. The role of academic institutions in maintaining the UFO cover-up cannot be overstated. Universities receive substantial government funding that comes with implicit restrictions on certain types of research. Faculty members who show interest in UFO investigations find their career prospects diminished, their research proposals rejected, and their credibility questioned by colleagues. This creates a self-reinforcing cycle where serious scientists avoid the topic entirely, leaving the field to amateur researchers who lack the resources and credibility to conduct thorough investigations. Perhaps most troubling is the evidence suggesting that some UFO crashes have been deliberately staged by government agencies to test public reaction and refine their suppression techniques. These false flag operations serve multiple purposes. They allow authorities to practice their response protocols, gauge media coverage, and identify potential security leaks within their own organizations. The Kecksburg incident of 1965 and the Shag Harbor event of 1967 both show suspicious characteristics that suggest possible government orchestration. The international dimension of UFO suppression reveals a level of cooperation between nations that transcends traditional political boundaries. Intelligence sharing agreements specifically address UFO-related information, ensuring that no single government can unilaterally disclose the truth. The Five Eyes Intelligence Alliance has been particularly active in coordinating UFO suppression efforts, with member nations sharing witness databases, disinformation strategies, and technological countermeasures. Religious institutions have also played a role in the suppression effort, though often unwittingly. The potential implications of extraterrestrial contact for traditional religious beliefs make many faith leaders natural allies in maintaining the status quo. Government agencies have quietly encouraged religious organizations to frame UFO phenomena in supernatural or demonic terms, effectively removing them from the realm of scientific inquiry and placing them in the domain of faith and superstition. The digital age has brought new challenges and opportunities for UFO suppression. Social media platforms have been infiltrated by sophisticated disinformation agents who work to discredit genuine UFO evidence while promoting obvious hoaxes. Algorithmic manipulation ensures that serious UFO research receives limited visibility, while sensationalized content dominates search results. The abundance of easily fabricated digital evidence has created a paradox where genuine UFO footage becomes harder to distinguish from the flood of fake material. Commercial interests have become increasingly important in maintaining the cover-up. Aerospace companies with government contracts have strong incentives to suppress evidence of technologies that might threaten their market positions. The development of advanced propulsion systems based on recovered alien technology is allegedly being pursued in deep black projects, while publicly funded research is deliberately misdirected toward less promising avenues. The psychological toll on those within the government who know the truth has led to an increasing number of deathbed confessions and whistleblower revelations. However, these disclosures are carefully managed through limited hangout operations that reveal partial truths while concealing the most significant aspects of the cover-up. This controlled disclosure serves to release pressure within the system while maintaining overall secrecy. Recent developments suggest that the traditional suppression model may be breaking down under the weight of accumulated evidence and technological advancement. The proliferation of high-quality cameras, sensors, and communication devices has made it increasingly difficult to suppress all UFO incidents. Military personnel are speaking out in unprecedented numbers, and some government officials are calling for greater transparency. However, these apparent moves toward disclosure may themselves be part of a more sophisticated suppression strategy designed to maintain control over the narrative while appearing to embrace openness. The true scope of the UFO cover-up extends far beyond simple denial of extraterrestrial visitation. It encompasses a fundamental restructuring of human society to prevent the technological and philosophical disruption that full disclosure would bring. This system of control has become so deeply embedded in our institutions that it may continue to function even without active direction, perpetuating itself through institutional inertia and the vested interests of those who benefit from the current order. As we continue to uncover the mechanisms of suppression, we must remember that the goal is not merely to hide the existence of UFOs, but to control the pace and nature of humanity's integration into a larger cosmic community. The managers of this process believe they are protecting civilization from chaos, but their actions may ultimately prove more damaging than the truth they seek to conceal. The truth about UFO secrecy runs deeper than most dare to imagine. While the public debates weather balloons and swamp gas, a sophisticated network of institutions has spent decades constructing an invisible fortress around the most profound secret in human history. This isn't the work of a single government agency or shadowy cabal. It's a systematic, coordinated effort spanning multiple levels of society, all designed to ensure that humanity never grasps the full scope of what has been visiting our skies. At the heart of this grand deception lies what intelligence insiders call the architecture, a carefully constructed framework of plausible denial, information compartmentalization, and psychological conditioning that has been refined over 75 years. Unlike the crude cover-ups of earlier decades, this modern system operates with surgical precision, anticipating public curiosity and channeling it into carefully controlled narratives that satisfy without revealing. The architecture operates on 5 distinct levels, each serving a specific function in maintaining the secret. The first level consists of official government statements and investigations, the public face of UFO research that provides the illusion of transparency while revealing nothing of substance. These carefully choreographed disclosures, like the Pentagon's recent UAP videos, serve a dual purpose. They acknowledge the reality of unexplained phenomena while simultaneously framing them as national security concerns requiring continued secrecy. The second level involves the strategic deployment of disinformation through carefully cultivated sources within the UFO research community. These aren't necessarily government agents, but rather well-meaning researchers who have been fed a mixture of genuine information and deliberate falsehoods, creating a fog of confusion that makes it nearly impossible for the public to distinguish fact from fiction. This approach has the added benefit of discrediting legitimate witnesses and researchers by association with obviously false claims. The third level operates through academic and scientific institutions, where a culture of ridicule and career suicide has been carefully cultivated around serious UFO research. Scientists who dare to investigate anomalous phenomena find their funding cut, their papers rejected, and their professional reputations destroyed. This isn't accomplished through direct threats, but through a subtle system of peer pressure and institutional bias that has become so ingrained that it now perpetuates itself without central coordination. The fourth level involves the manipulation of media narratives through entertainment and news coverage. UFO topics are consistently portrayed in ways that either sensationalize them into obvious fiction or frame them as the obsessions of unstable individuals. This cultural conditioning has been so effective that even when credible evidence emerges, the public's first instinct is to dismiss it as either hoax or delusion. The fifth and most insidious level operates through what intelligence professionals call cognitive infrastructure, the fundamental assumptions and thought patterns that shape how people process information about reality itself. Through decades of subtle influence in educational curricula, scientific training, and public discourse, the very idea that we might not be alone has been relegated to the realm of fantasy, despite mounting evidence to the contrary. But perhaps the most sophisticated aspect of the architecture is its ability to evolve and adapt. When the old approaches of outright denial became untenable in the Internet age, the system shifted to controlled disclosure, admitting to the existence of unexplained phenomena while carefully managing the narrative around them. The recent Pentagon acknowledgements of UAPs aren't signs that the cover-up is ending. They're evidence that it has evolved into something far more sophisticated. This new phase of controlled disclosure serves multiple purposes. It allows the system to appear transparent while maintaining operational secrecy. It provides a release valve for mounting public pressure while directing attention away from the most sensitive aspects of the phenomenon. Most importantly, it allows those in control to frame the narrative in terms that serve their interests, emphasizing potential threats and national security implications while downplaying any evidence of beneficial contact or advanced technologies that could revolutionize human civilization. The most chilling aspect of this modern approach is its use of partial truths to obscure larger realities. Yes, unidentified objects are operating in our airspace with capabilities beyond current human technology. Yes, government agencies have been studying these phenomena for decades. But by acknowledging these limited facts while maintaining silence about recovered materials, ongoing contact, and suppressed technologies, the system creates the illusion of disclosure while preserving the essential secret. Meanwhile, a parallel structure has emerged within the private sector. Aerospace corporations, defense contractors, and technology companies that have been quietly integrated into the secrecy apparatus. These entities, operating under the protection of corporate proprietary rights and national security classifications, may actually hold more pieces of the puzzle than government agencies themselves. The revolving door between military leadership and defense industry executives ensures that sensitive information remains within a trusted circle while being technically privatized beyond the reach of government oversight. The psychological impact of this system extends far beyond the UFO phenomenon itself. By demonstrating that reality can be successfully hidden in plain sight, the architecture has fundamentally altered the relationship between institutions and the public. It has created a template for managing other inconvenient truths, from environmental disasters to technological breakthroughs that might disrupt existing power structures. The techniques perfected in UFO secrecy have been applied to everything from pharmaceutical research to energy technology, creating a broader culture of institutional opacity that serves elite interests at the expense of human progress. Perhaps most tragically, this system has prevented humanity from benefiting from what may be the greatest opportunity in our species' history. If the evidence suggests anything, it's that we are being observed by intelligences possessing technologies that could solve our most pressing problems: clean energy, environmental restoration, medical advances, and perhaps even solutions to aging and death itself. By maintaining secrecy around these contacts, the architecture may be denying our entire species access to knowledge that could transform human civilization. The irony is that the very sophistication of this system may ultimately be its undoing. In their efforts to control every aspect of the narrative, the architects of secrecy have created such a complex web of lies and half-truths that it's becoming increasingly difficult to maintain. Each new revelation, each leaked document, each credible witness who comes forward adds another crack to the facade. The internet age has made it nearly impossible to suppress information completely, and the old techniques of character assassination and ridicule are losing their effectiveness as more credible sources come forward. Moreover, the global nature of the phenomenon means that secrecy can only be maintained if every major world power cooperates. As geopolitical tensions rise and traditional alliances strain, the likelihood of coordinated silence decreases. A single major disclosure by any world government could unravel the entire system overnight. The most profound question isn't whether the truth will eventually emerge. It's whether humanity will be prepared for it when it does. Decades of conditioning have left most people psychologically unprepared for the reality that we are not alone, that our governments have been lying to us about the most important discovery in human history, and that our understanding of physics, consciousness, and our place in the universe may be fundamentally incomplete. But perhaps that's exactly what the architecture has been preparing for all along. By gradually acclimatizing the public to the idea of unexplained phenomena while maintaining careful control over the narrative, the system may be engaged in a slow-motion disclosure process designed to minimize social disruption when the full truth finally emerges. The question is whether this managed revelation will serve humanity's interests or simply preserve the power structures that have maintained the secret for so long. As we stand at this crossroads between secrecy and disclosure, between ignorance and enlightenment, the choices made by those who control the architecture will determine not just what we learn about UFOs, but what kind of species we become. Will we emerge from this long night of secrecy as a mature civilization ready to take our place among the stars, or will we remain trapped in a web of lies that prevents us from realizing our full potential? The answer may depend on whether enough people begin to see through the carefully constructed illusions and demand the truth that has been hidden from us for so long. For in the end, the greatest power the architecture possesses isn't its ability to keep secrets. It's its ability to convince us that we don't deserve to know them. The silence is breaking. The question is whether we're ready to hear what it's been hiding. The hidden mechanics of reality, how concealed technology shapes our world. We live in an age where the impossible has become mundane, where technologies that would have seemed like magic to our ancestors are now woven so seamlessly into our daily lives that we barely notice them. Yet beneath this veneer of transparency lies a vast network of concealed systems, classified technologies, and hidden capabilities that operate in the shadows of our modern world. The architecture of secrecy surrounding advanced technology is not merely a byproduct of national security concerns. It represents a fundamental restructuring of how knowledge and power are distributed in human civilization. For decades, whispered rumors have circulated about breakthrough technologies that remain locked away in classified facilities, developments that could revolutionize energy production, transportation, communication, and even our understanding of physics itself. Consider the documented history of technological suppression in the 20th century. The transistor, which would eventually transform every aspect of human civilization, remained classified for years after its development at Bell Labs. Stealth technology existed in black budget programs for over a decade before the public ever glimpsed the angular silhouette of an F-117 Nighthawk. Satellite reconnaissance capabilities that seemed like science fiction were operational realities long before the civilian world understood their implications. This pattern of concealment extends far beyond military applications. In corporate research facilities around the world, teams of scientists and engineers work on projects that push the boundaries of known science. Some of these developments emerge into the public sphere through patents and commercial applications. Others disappear into the classified realm, acquired by government agencies or buried by corporate interests concerned about market disruption. The mechanisms of technological suppression are more sophisticated than simple classification stamps and security clearances. They involve complex networks of compartmentalized research where brilliant minds work on pieces of a larger puzzle without ever seeing the complete picture. Scientists in university laboratories might develop a revolutionary new material, unaware that their work is being monitored and potentially redirected by intelligence agencies. Corporate researchers might find their most promising breakthroughs quietly acquired through shell companies connected to defense contractors. The economics of technological suppression reveal themselves in the careful management of innovation timelines. Certain breakthroughs are released to the public only when existing technologies have reached the end of their profitable life cycle. Others are held back indefinitely, deemed too disruptive to established power structures or economic systems. The patent system itself becomes a tool of suppression, allowing entities to lock away innovations for decades while preventing others from pursuing similar research. Energy technologies represent perhaps the most closely guarded frontier of concealed innovation. The implications of revolutionary energy systems extend far beyond mere technological advancement. They threaten to reshape global power structures, economic systems, and social hierarchies that have persisted for centuries. Fossil fuel industries, nuclear establishments, and renewable energy sectors all have vested interests in controlling the pace and direction of energy innovation. Witnesses from within classified programs have occasionally emerged with tantalizing glimpses of what lies hidden. Former aerospace engineers speak of propulsion systems that seem to violate conventional physics. Materials scientists describe substances with properties that challenge our understanding of chemistry and physics. Computer researchers hint at quantum computing capabilities that dwarf publicly acknowledged systems. The concealment of advanced technology creates a parallel civilization of sorts, one where the laws of physics, as publicly understood, are merely suggestions, where energy and transportation limitations are artifacts of artificial scarcity rather than natural constraints. This hidden technological realm operates according to different rules, possessed of capabilities that would seem miraculous to those living within the boundaries of publicly acknowledged science. The psychological impact of technological suppression extends beyond mere curiosity about hidden innovations. It creates a fundamental uncertainty about the nature of reality itself. If the technologies we consider cutting edge are actually decades behind classified capabilities, what does this mean for our understanding of human potential? How do we assess the true state of our civilization when its most advanced achievements remain hidden from view? The digital age has complicated the dynamics of technological concealment in unprecedented ways. Information that once required physical access to classified facilities can now potentially be transmitted instantly across global networks. Yet the same digital technologies that threaten traditional secrecy also enable new forms of surveillance and control. Artificial intelligence systems can monitor communications for sensitive keywords, identify potential leakers before they act, and even predict which researchers might develop breakthrough technologies. The compartmentalization of advanced research has reached levels of sophistication that would impress even the most paranoid conspiracy theorist. Modern black projects operate through networks of subcontractors and shell companies so complex that even participants often remain unaware of the ultimate purpose of their work. A materials scientist might develop a revolutionary metamaterial without knowing it will be used in stealth applications. A software engineer might write code for quantum encryption systems without understanding the broader implications of their work. The concealment of revolutionary technologies creates a strange temporal displacement in human civilization. We live simultaneously in multiple technological ages, the public-facing world of smartphones and electric vehicles, and the hidden realm of capabilities that might seem like science fiction. This temporal schism affects everything from economic planning to social development, as policies and institutions are built around publicly acknowledged capabilities rather than actual technological realities. The international dimensions of technological suppression reveal a complex web of cooperation and competition between global powers. While nations compete fiercely for technological advantage, they also cooperate in maintaining certain forms of concealment. Some technologies are deemed too dangerous for any single nation to possess openly, leading to secret international agreements about their development and deployment. The human cost of technological suppression manifests in countless ways. Medical technologies that could save lives remain locked in classified research programs. Energy systems that could address climate change gather dust in secure facilities. Communication technologies that could revolutionize human cooperation are held back by concerns about their disruptive potential. Yet the suppression of technology also serves certain stabilizing functions within human civilization. The rapid release of revolutionary technologies could create social upheaval, economic collapse, and political instability on a global scale. The gradual, controlled introduction of innovations allows societies to adapt and institutions to evolve. What appears to be suppression might sometimes be prudent management of technological disruption. The concealment of advanced technology raises profound questions about democracy, transparency, and human agency. In a world where the most important technological decisions are made in secret by unelected officials and corporate executives, what does democratic governance actually mean? How can citizens make informed choices about their future when the full range of technological possibilities remains hidden from view? The emergence of private space companies, quantum computing firms, and artificial intelligence laboratories has begun to blur the traditional boundaries between public and private technological development. Entrepreneurs like Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos operate in spaces that were once the exclusive domain of government agencies. This privatization of advanced technology creates new forms of concealment, where corporate secrets replace state secrets as the primary mechanism of technological suppression. The concealment of revolutionary technologies also creates a strange form of technological stagnation in the public sphere. While classified programs push the boundaries of known science, publicly available technology often advances at a pace deliberately managed to maximize profit and minimize disruption. The smartphone in your pocket might represent technology that was cutting edge 20 years ago in classified programs. The psychological adaptation to technological concealment has become a defining characteristic of modern civilization. We live with the constant awareness that our understanding of technological reality is incomplete, that capabilities exist beyond our knowledge or imagination. This creates a peculiar form of technological humility, an understanding that the impossible might already be commonplace somewhere in the hidden reaches of classified research. The educational implications of technological suppression extend far beyond the obvious limitations on scientific research and development. Students learn physics based on publicly acknowledged principles, while revolutionary discoveries remain locked away in classified programs. Engineers design systems according to published specifications, while advanced materials and manufacturing techniques remain proprietary. This creates a fundamental disconnect between education and technological reality. The concealment of advanced technology also affects cultural and artistic expression in subtle but profound ways. Science fiction writers and filmmakers often imagine futures based on extrapolations of publicly known technology, unaware that their fictional breakthroughs might already exist in classified form. This creates a strange temporal loop where entertainment media depicts future technologies that are actually contemporary realities in hidden programs. The global infrastructure of technological suppression represents one of the most sophisticated information management systems in human history. It operates through formal classification systems, informal corporate secrecy, academic compartmentalization, and cultural conditioning. Most participants in this system are unaware of their role in maintaining technological concealment. They simply work within the boundaries of their authorized knowledge while trusting that others are managing the broader implications. The emergence of citizen science, open source development, and distributed research networks has begun to challenge traditional models of technological suppression. When thousands of independent researchers can collaborate on problems that were once the exclusive domain of classified programs, the ability to maintain secrecy becomes increasingly difficult. Yet new forms of concealment emerge to replace the old: algorithmic filtering of information, strategic misdirection of research funding, and the subtle manipulation of scientific publishing. The concealment of revolutionary technologies
also serves as a form of temporal arbitrage for those with access to classified capabilities. Investors who know about breakthrough technologies years before their public release can position themselves to profit from the eventual market disruption. Governments with access to advanced systems can maintain strategic advantages over potential adversaries. Corporations with proprietary technologies can extract maximum value before releasing innovations to competitors. The psychological and social effects of living in a world of concealed technology extend into the deepest aspects of human experience. Our sense of what is possible, our understanding of natural law, our perception of human capability. All of these are shaped by the technological realities we're allowed to perceive.
The concealment of advanced systems creates a form of induced ignorance that affects everything from career choices to philosophical worldviews. The revelation of concealed technologies often follows predictable patterns. Initial denials give way to limited acknowledgements, which eventually evolve into controlled disclosure of selected capabilities. The Internet, GPS navigation, and stealth technology all followed this trajectory from classified breakthrough to civilian application. Yet for every technology that emerges into public view, others remain hidden in the vast archipelago of classified research. The concealment of advanced technology creates unique challenges for democratic oversight and accountability. How can elected officials provide meaningful governance of programs they're not authorized to know about? How can citizens hold their governments accountable for decisions made using capabilities that remain classified? The traditional mechanisms of democratic control become meaningless when applied to technological realities that exist beyond public knowledge. The international competition for technological advantage has created a global arms race in concealment itself. Nations compete not only to develop revolutionary technologies, but also to hide their capabilities from potential adversaries. This creates a paradoxical situation where the most advanced civilizations on Earth are simultaneously the most secretive about their actual capabilities. The concealment of revolutionary technologies also affects the trajectory of human evolution itself. If breakthrough medical technologies remain classified, human longevity and capability might advance unevenly across different populations. If cognitive enhancement technologies exist in secret programs, the development of human intelligence might be artificially constrained in the general population. The hidden management of technological development becomes a form of species-level social engineering. The emergence of artificial intelligence systems capable of designing and manufacturing new technologies autonomously adds another layer of complexity to technological concealment. When machines can develop breakthrough innovations without human oversight, the traditional mechanisms of classification and secrecy become inadequate. New forms of concealment must evolve to manage technologies that exist beyond human understanding. The concealment of advanced technology creates a fundamental asymmetry in human civilization, a division between those who live within the boundaries of publicly acknowledged reality and those who operate with knowledge of concealed capabilities. This asymmetry affects everything from strategic planning to resource allocation, creating parallel civilizations that operate according to fundamentally different assumptions about what is possible. As we stand at the threshold of an era where technological capabilities seem to approach the limits of imagination, the concealment of revolutionary systems becomes both more important and more difficult to maintain. The technologies being developed in classified programs today might represent capabilities that could transform human civilization beyond recognition. Yet these same technologies remain hidden from the very people whose lives they might ultimately reshape. The hidden mechanics of technological reality continue to operate in the shadows of our modern world, shaping possibilities we cannot see and constraining futures we cannot imagine. In this concealed realm, the impossible becomes routine, the revolutionary becomes classified, and the future remains perpetually deferred. Understanding these hidden mechanics requires looking beyond the surface of publicly acknowledged technology to glimpse the vast infrastructure of concealment that surrounds us. Perhaps the most profound implication of technological concealment is what it reveals about the nature of knowledge itself in our civilization. We live in an age where information is supposedly democratized, where knowledge is said to be freely available to all. Yet the most important technological realities remain hidden behind walls of classification, compartmentalization, and corporate secrecy. This creates a strange epistemological landscape where the most crucial knowledge about our technological capabilities remains forever out of reach. The concealment of revolutionary technology ultimately raises questions that extend far beyond mere curiosity about hidden innovations. It challenges our understanding of progress, democracy, truth, and human potential itself. In a world where the most advanced technologies remain concealed from view, we are left to wonder not just what capabilities exist in the shadows, but what kind of civilization we have become when such profound concealment is considered necessary, acceptable, or inevitable. The hidden mechanics of reality continue their silent operation, shaping our world in ways we can barely perceive and concealing possibilities that might transform everything we think we know about the nature of human potential and technological possibility. In this interconnected web of silence, advanced technologies that could revolutionize human civilization remain locked away in classified archives. Researchers describe propulsion systems that defy conventional physics, energy sources that could solve climate change overnight, and materials with properties that surpass our current understanding. These breakthroughs exist in shadow laboratories and underground facilities, studied by select scientists bound by the strictest secrecy oaths. Former insiders speak of technologies decades ahead of what the public knows. Anti-gravity systems that could transform transportation, free energy devices that could eliminate fossil fuel dependence, medical technologies that could extend human lifespan significantly. Yet these innovations never reach the market, never benefit humanity, kept hidden to preserve existing power structures and economic systems. The suppression operates through multiple channels. Patents are classified under national security provisions. Inventors face intimidation or mysterious disappearances. Research funding is redirected away from breakthrough technologies. Academic institutions self-censor to maintain government contracts. The scientific community, knowingly or unknowingly, participates in maintaining the boundaries of acceptable research. This technological apartheid extends beyond Earth-based innovations. Recovered craft demonstrate engineering principles that could revolutionize how we understand physics itself, metamaterials that change properties at the molecular level, propulsion systems that manipulate space-time directly, information storage methods that compress vast amounts of data into crystalline structures. These discoveries remain sequestered, studied in secret, while humanity struggles with primitive technologies. The implications stagger the imagination. If released, these technologies could eliminate scarcity, enable interstellar travel, and fundamentally transform human civilization. But their suppression serves multiple purposes: maintaining economic control, preventing social upheaval, and preserving military advantages. The few who control this knowledge wield power that shapes the trajectory of human development. Yet cracks appear in this carefully constructed wall of silence. Whistleblowers emerge with first-hand accounts. Leaked documents surface revealing classified programs. Scientists publish papers that hint at breakthrough discoveries. The growing UFO disclosure movement creates pressure for transparency. Each revelation threatens to expose the vast scope of what has been hidden. The architecture of secrecy that has contained these truths for decades faces unprecedented challenges. Social media amplifies witness testimonies instantly. Independent researchers collaborate across global networks. Advanced detection equipment becomes accessible to civilian investigators. The monopoly on information that once guaranteed silence is crumbling. As we stand at this historical inflection point, the questions become urgent. How long can such extensive secrecy be maintained? What happens when these suppressed technologies finally emerge? And perhaps most importantly, what does it mean for humanity to have been deliberately kept in technological infancy while possessing the means for transcendence? The answers to these questions will determine whether we continue living within carefully managed limitations or finally step into our full potential as a species capable of reaching the stars. Yet even the most carefully constructed walls of secrecy cannot hold forever. The very architecture of deception that has concealed these truths for decades now shows cracks spreading through its foundation. What we're witnessing today isn't just random disclosure. It's the systematic collapse of humanity's greatest cover-up, accelerated by forces both within and beyond the control of those who built it. The digital revolution has fundamentally altered the game. Where once a handful of government officials could suppress a story through a few well-placed phone calls to newspaper editors, today's information landscape is decentralized, democratized, and nearly impossible to contain. When the Pentagon released those 3 Navy videos, FLIR 1, Gimbal, and Go Fast, they weren't just acknowledging UAPs existed. They were admitting they could no longer control the narrative. Consider the cascade effect we're seeing unfold. Each new revelation emboldens others to come forward. When former Pentagon official Luis Elizondo stepped into the spotlight, he opened floodgates that had been sealed for generations. His testimony validated decades of witness accounts that had been dismissed, ridiculed, or buried. Suddenly, career military officers, intelligence operatives, and aerospace engineers felt permission to speak truths they'd carried in silence for years. The all-domain anomaly. Resolution Office represents something unprecedented in this long history of denial. A government agency explicitly tasked with investigating the very phenomena that previous generations of officials swore didn't exist. This isn't just a policy shift, it's an admission that the old paradigm of blanket denial has become untenable. When senators demand briefings on UAPs in open hearings, when former CIA directors acknowledge the reality of unexplained phenomena, when NASA announces systematic studies of anomalous aerial phenomena, we're witnessing the controlled demolition of the secrecy apparatus itself. But this disclosure isn't happening in a vacuum. It's occurring against the backdrop of technological advancement that makes the old methods of concealment obsolete. Commercial satellites now possess resolution capabilities that rival military reconnaissance systems. Civilian researchers can analyze radar data, track flight patterns, and correlate sightings across vast databases. The democratization of technology has turned every smartphone into a potential evidence-gathering device, every social media platform into a disclosure mechanism that bypasses traditional gatekeepers entirely. The pattern emerging suggests this disclosure process was inevitable, perhaps even planned. Some researchers point to what they call acclimation protocols, the gradual release of information designed to prepare the public for larger revelations. The progression from outright denial to grudging acknowledgement to active investigation follows a timeline that seems too methodical to be accidental. Whether this represents a controlled release by those who've long held these secrets, or simply the natural evolution of a secret too large to contain, remains an open question. What's becoming clear is that the technologies observed in these encounters represent capabilities that transcend our current understanding of physics. Craft that accelerate from stationary to hypersonic speeds instantaneously, that make right-angle turns at velocities that should tear any known material apart, that transition seamlessly between air and water without losing momentum. These aren't incremental advances over existing technology. They represent paradigm shifts that suggest either breakthrough developments in human engineering that have been kept secret for decades, or capabilities of non-human origin. The implications extend far beyond mere acknowledgement of anomalous phenomena. If these technologies exist, and the mounting evidence suggests they do, then we're looking at revolutionary advances in propulsion, energy generation, and materials science that could transform civilization. Zero-point energy extraction, gravitic manipulation, room temperature superconductors, metamaterials with properties that seem to violate known physics. The potential applications stretch from solving climate change to enabling interstellar travel. Yet this technological aspect raises perhaps the most disturbing questions about the secrecy apparatus. If breakthrough technologies capable of solving humanity's greatest challenges have been suppressed to maintain existing power structures, then the conspiracy represents not just deception, but active impediment to human progress. How many environmental crises could have been averted? How many conflicts over resources could have been prevented? How much human suffering could have been alleviated if these advances had been shared rather than sequestered? The psychological and sociological dimensions of disclosure are equally profound. For generations, the scientific establishment has operated under paradigms that exclude the possibility of non-human intelligence visiting Earth. The peer review process, academic tenure systems, and research funding mechanisms have all served to reinforce orthodox thinking and punish exploration of anomalous phenomena. This institutional resistance hasn't just delayed disclosure, it's created a fundamental crisis of credibility that extends throughout the scientific community. We're seeing the early stages of this reckoning play out in real time. Astrophysicists who once dismissed UAP reports are now calling for systematic study. Materials scientists are analyzing alleged crash debris. Aerospace engineers are attempting to reverse engineer observed flight characteristics. The slow pivot from dismissal to investigation represents a seismic shift in scientific culture, one that may ultimately prove more transformative than the phenomena themselves. The geopolitical ramifications are equally staggering. If advanced technologies exist that could provide decisive military advantages, then the strategic balance that has maintained relative global stability could shift overnight. The race to understand and potentially weaponize these capabilities may already be underway, hidden within black budget programs and compartmentalized research initiatives that operate beyond traditional oversight mechanisms. But perhaps most significantly, the disclosure process is revealing the extent to which democratic institutions have been bypassed by unacknowledged special access programs. When former Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid states that senators with top-secret clearances have been denied access to UAP information, when former CIA Director John Brennan acknowledges phenomena that transcend current understanding, when Pentagon officials admit to multi-decade research programs that Congress knew nothing about, we're confronting evidence of a shadow governance structure that operates parallel to, and sometimes in opposition to, elected government. This represents more than policy disagreement or bureaucratic secrecy. It suggests the existence of what some researchers call a breakaway civilization, a group with access to advanced technologies and suppressed knowledge that has effectively seceded from mainstream human society. Whether this group consists of human actors with access to recovered non-human technology, representatives of non-human intelligence operating on Earth, or some hybrid collaboration, their influence on human development appears to have been profound and largely invisible. The religious and philosophical implications are equally transformative. Most of the world's major religions were formulated when humanity believed itself to be the sole intelligent life in a universe that revolved around Earth. The confirmation of non-human intelligence, whether extraterrestrial, interdimensional, or something else entirely, would necessitate fundamental re-examination of doctrines, beliefs, and assumptions that have shaped human civilization for millennia. Yet perhaps the most hopeful aspect of this unfolding disclosure is its democratic character. Unlike previous epochs, where knowledge was hoarded by elites and dispensed to masses, today's revelation process is participatory. Citizen researchers analyze declassified documents, amateur astronomers track anomalous objects, independent journalists investigate cover-ups, and social media platforms amplify witness testimonies that would once have been suppressed. The truth is emerging not through official channels alone, but through the collective efforts of ordinary people demanding answers to extraordinary questions. This grassroots disclosure movement suggests that whatever revelations lie ahead, they will be shaped by public demand rather than elite discretion. The questions being asked are no longer whether these phenomena exist, but what they represent, where they originate, and what their presence means for humanity's future. The conspiracy of silence that once seemed impenetrable is crumbling under the weight of accumulated evidence and the persistent pressure of those who refuse to accept comfortable lies over difficult truths. As we stand on the threshold of what may be the most significant revelations in human history, the architecture of secrecy that concealed these truths is transforming into the infrastructure of disclosure. The same technologies and institutions that once suppressed evidence are now facilitating its emergence. The same witnesses who were once silenced are now finding platforms and protection. The same phenomena that were once denied are now acknowledged, studied, and slowly understood. The great secret is becoming the great revelation, and humanity is finally beginning to confront the reality that we are not alone, and perhaps never have been. We open with a curious event unfolding in the shadows of institutional silence. For decades, a systematic campaign has obscured one of the most significant phenomena of our time. What you're about to hear challenges everything we've been told about our place in the universe. Picture this scenario: military personnel witness craft performing maneuvers that defy known physics. Scientists analyze materials with properties beyond current understanding. Government officials brief world leaders on encounters with non-human intelligence. Yet the public remains largely unaware. This isn't speculation. This is the documented reality emerging from classified files, whistleblower testimonies, and official admissions. The truth is, we're living through the collapse of the greatest cover-up in human history. The evidence for extraterrestrial visitation isn't hidden in distant galaxies or theoretical physics. It's buried in government vaults, corporate laboratories, and the testimonies of credible witnesses who've been silenced for generations. Consider the architecture of secrecy that's been constructed around this phenomenon. It operates through multiple layers of plausible deniability, compartmentalized information, and strategic disinformation. Those who've tried to speak out have faced career destruction, legal threats, and worse. The machinery of suppression has been so effective that even discussing these topics seriously risks ridicule and professional suicide. But something fundamental is shifting. The old gatekeepers are losing control. Pentagon officials are releasing videos they can no longer explain away. Military pilots are coming forward with encounters they can no longer dismiss. Scientists are acknowledging anomalies they can no longer ignore. The dam is cracking, and the flood of disclosure is becoming unstoppable. What emerges from this cascade of revelations is a picture so extraordinary it reframes our understanding of reality itself. We're not dealing with experimental aircraft or atmospheric phenomena. We're confronting evidence of technology that operates beyond our current scientific paradigms. Craft that manipulate gravity, travel at impossible speeds, and demonstrate intelligence that surpasses human capability. The implications stretch far beyond the existence of UFOs. They point to a larger truth about humanity's place in a universe teeming with intelligence. They suggest that our technological development, our religious beliefs, and our understanding of consciousness itself may have been shaped by contact with beings whose origins lie beyond Earth. The resistance to this revelation isn't merely institutional, it's psychological, cultural, and spiritual. Acknowledging the reality of extraterrestrial visitation requires us to confront the limits of human knowledge, the fragility of our belief systems, and the possibility that we're not the apex of intelligence in the cosmos. It demands that we reconsider everything from our scientific assumptions to our religious doctrines. Yet this confrontation with the unknown offers unprecedented opportunities. The technologies demonstrated by these craft could revolutionize energy production, transportation, and our understanding of physics. The knowledge that we're not alone could unite humanity around our shared cosmic heritage. The recognition of our limited perspective could inspire humility, wonder, and a renewed commitment to exploring the mysteries that surround us. What you're witnessing isn't just the disclosure of hidden information. It's the emergence of a new paradigm that will fundamentally alter how we see ourselves and our place in the universe. The age of secrecy is ending. The age of cosmic awareness is beginning, and nothing will ever be the same. The evidence is overwhelming. The witnesses are credible. The technology is real. The only question remaining is whether we're ready to accept the truth that's been hidden in plain sight. The universe is vast, ancient, and populated with intelligence beyond our current comprehension. And they've been here, watching, waiting, perhaps preparing us for the moment when we're ready to join the larger cosmic community. As we stand at this unprecedented crossroads in human history, the weight of accumulated evidence becomes impossible to ignore. The testimonies of military officers, astronauts, government officials, and countless credible witnesses paint a picture that extends far beyond the realm of speculation. These are not the ramblings of conspiracy theorists or the fantasies of science fiction enthusiasts. These are documented accounts from individuals who have dedicated their lives to service, science, and the pursuit of truth. The technological demonstrations we have witnessed defy our current understanding of physics and engineering. Objects that accelerate from 0 to thousands of miles per hour instantaneously, craft that make 90-degree turns at impossible speeds, vehicles that appear to manipulate gravity itself, and technologies that seem to bend the very fabric of space-time around them. These capabilities represent advances that are not merely decades ahead of our current technology, but potentially centuries or millennia beyond our present understanding. Consider the implications of what we have discussed. If even a fraction of these accounts are accurate, if even the most conservative interpretations of the evidence are correct, then we are confronting the reality that we are not alone in the universe. More than that, we are facing the possibility that we have been visited, observed, and perhaps even guided by intelligences that possess capabilities we can barely comprehend. The systematic suppression of this information reveals something equally profound about the nature of power and control in our society. The coordination required to maintain such a comprehensive cover-up across multiple governments, institutions, and decades of time suggests a level of organization and intent that challenges our basic assumptions about how information flows in the modern world. This is not merely about hiding uncomfortable truths. This is about controlling the very narrative of human existence and our place in the cosmic order. The psychological mechanisms employed to maintain this suppression are particularly insidious. The ridicule and stigmatization of witnesses, the deliberate seeding of disinformation to muddy the waters of legitimate inquiry, and the weaponization of scientific skepticism to shut down investigation rather than encourage it. These tactics have been refined over generations, creating a self-perpetuating system where the truth becomes increasingly difficult to discern from deliberate deception. Yet the cracks in this facade are becoming impossible to hide. The recent acknowledgement by the Pentagon of unidentified aerial phenomena, the establishment of official investigation programs, and the testimony of high-ranking officials before Congress represent a seismic shift in the official narrative. These developments suggest that the carefully constructed wall of denial is beginning to crumble under the weight of accumulating evidence and changing geopolitical realities. The technological implications of disclosure extend far beyond the immediate shock of confirming non-human intelligence. The suppressed technologies that may have been reverse-engineered or inspired by these encounters could revolutionize every aspect of human civilization. Clean,
limitless energy that could end our dependence on fossil fuels and transform our relationship with the environment. Transportation systems that could make travel to distant stars not just possible, but routine. Medical technologies that could extend human life and eliminate disease. Communication systems that could connect consciousness across vast distances. These possibilities raise profound questions about the morality of suppression. How many environmental crises could have been averted with access to advanced energy technologies? How many lives could have been saved with superior medical knowledge? How much human suffering could have been alleviated if these technologies had been shared rather than hidden? The ethical implications of this concealment may represent one of the greatest crimes against humanity in our history. The social and spiritual implications are equally staggering.
The confirmation of non-human intelligence would fundamentally alter our understanding of consciousness, intelligence, and our place in the universe. Religious and philosophical frameworks that have guided human civilization for millennia would need to be reconsidered in light of this new reality. The psychological impact on humanity could be transformative, potentially leading to a new era of cosmic consciousness and universal perspective. The economic disruption would be unprecedented. Industries built around scarcity and limitation could become obsolete overnight. The geopolitical balance of power could shift dramatically if these technologies were to become available. The vested interests that have profited from the current system of energy dependence and technological limitation would face existential threats to their power and influence. This may explain, in part, why the suppression has been so comprehensive and persistent. The revelation of these truths would not merely change our understanding of reality, it would fundamentally restructure the basic foundations of human society. The implications are so far-reaching that those in positions of power may have convinced themselves that humanity is not ready for such revelations. However, the evidence suggests that this decision may no longer be theirs to make. The proliferation of detection technologies, the democratization of information through the internet, and the increasing sophistication of civilian researchers have created an environment where secrecy becomes increasingly difficult to maintain. The same technological advances that may have been inspired by these encounters are now making it impossible to hide their existence. The testimonies of whistleblowers like David Grush, the acknowledgements by military officials, and the gradual release of previously classified materials suggest that we may be witnessing a controlled disclosure process. Whether this represents a genuine commitment to transparency or a strategic attempt to manage the narrative remains to be seen. What is clear is that the old paradigm of complete denial is no longer sustainable. The international dimension of this phenomenon adds another layer of complexity. Reports of similar encounters come from every continent and every culture. The consistency of descriptions across different societies and time periods suggests that this is not a localized phenomenon, but a global reality that has been with us throughout human history. The implications for international cooperation and global governance in the face of such revelations are profound. As we look toward the future, several scenarios seem possible. The first is a gradual disclosure process, where information is released slowly over time to allow society to adjust to these new realities. This approach might minimize social disruption, but could also allow for continued control and manipulation of the narrative. The second possibility is a more dramatic revelation, perhaps forced by undeniable evidence or testimony that cannot be suppressed or discredited. This could lead to rapid social and technological transformation, but also potentially significant upheaval. The third scenario, and perhaps the most concerning, is continued suppression despite mounting evidence. This would require increasingly authoritarian measures to control information and could lead to a fundamental breakdown in trust between governments and their citizens. The consequences of such a path could be catastrophic for democratic societies and human progress. The role of consciousness in these encounters cannot be overlooked. Many witnesses report not just physical sightings, but telepathic communication, expanded awareness, and profound spiritual experiences. These accounts suggest that contact with non-human intelligence may operate on levels beyond our current scientific understanding. The implications for human consciousness and our potential for evolution are staggering. The evidence for government retrieval and reverse engineering programs is particularly compelling. The testimonies of individuals who claim to have worked on these projects, the documented budget allocations for unacknowledged special access programs, and the technological leaps that seem to have emerged without clear developmental pathways all point to the existence of hidden research efforts. If these programs exist, they represent one of the most significant scientific endeavors in human history, conducted in complete secrecy. The timing of recent disclosures is also significant. The acknowledgement of these phenomena comes at a time when humanity faces unprecedented challenges: climate change, resource depletion, social inequality, and the potential for technological disruption. The technologies that may be hidden in these programs could provide solutions to many of these problems, making the continued suppression increasingly difficult to justify. The media's role in this suppression has been crucial. The systematic ridicule of witnesses, the focus on the most sensational and least credible accounts, and the failure to investigate serious testimonies have all contributed to maintaining the cover-up. The recent shift in media coverage, with more serious and respectful treatment of these topics, suggests that this dynamic may be changing. The scientific community's response has been mixed. While many researchers have been afraid to investigate these phenomena due to career concerns, others have begun to recognize the importance of serious scientific inquiry. The establishment of academic programs focused on anomalous phenomena and the increasing involvement of credible scientists in investigation efforts represent important developments. As we contemplate these possibilities, we must also consider what they mean for human identity and purpose. If we are indeed part of a larger cosmic community, our role and responsibility in that community become critical questions. The potential for contact with civilizations that have mastered technologies we can barely imagine raises profound questions about human development and our future trajectory. The evidence presented in these accounts suggests that we are living through one of the most significant periods in human history. The revelation of non-human intelligence and advanced technologies could mark the beginning of a new era of human civilization, one characterized by cosmic awareness, technological abundance, and expanded consciousness. Alternatively, the continued suppression of these truths could lead to stagnation and missed opportunities for unprecedented advancement. The choice of how to respond to these revelations may ultimately determine the future of human civilization. We can continue to ignore the evidence, dismiss the testimonies, and maintain the status quo of ignorance and limitation. Or we can embrace the possibility that we are part of something far greater than we have imagined, and that our future lies not in isolation, but in connection with the broader cosmic community. The top-secret UFO stories the world has ignored may not remain secret much longer. The weight of evidence, the courage of witnesses, and the changing dynamics of information control suggest that we are approaching a moment of unprecedented disclosure. How we respond to these revelations will define not just our understanding of the past, but our pathway to the future. As we stand at this pivotal moment in human history, the weight of these revelations becomes impossible to ignore. The stories we've explored today represent just the tip of an iceberg that has been deliberately submerged for over 7 decades. From the desert sands of Roswell to the military installations of Rendlesham Forest, from the schoolyards of Westall to the skies over Belgium, we've witnessed a consistent pattern of extraordinary encounters followed by systematic suppression. The evidence is overwhelming. Thousands of credible witnesses, including military personnel, pilots, scientists, and government officials, have risked their careers and reputations to share their experiences. These aren't the accounts of conspiracy theorists or attention seekers. These are trained observers, individuals whose professional lives depend on accurate reporting and sound judgment. Yet their testimonies have been marginalized, ridiculed, and buried beneath layers of official denial. The technology demonstrated in these encounters defies our current understanding of physics. Objects that accelerate from 0 to thousands of miles per hour instantaneously, craft that make impossible 90-degree turns without deceleration, vehicles that appear and disappear at will. These capabilities suggest propulsion systems and energy sources that could revolutionize human civilization. Imagine a world powered by clean, unlimited energy. Picture transportation systems that could eliminate pollution and transform global commerce. Consider the medical advances that might emerge from understanding consciousness and matter at such fundamental levels. Yet this knowledge has been locked away, studied in secret, and kept from the very species that could benefit most from its application. The implications go far beyond technological advancement. If these craft are of non-human origin, as the evidence strongly suggests, then we are not alone in the universe. We are part of a cosmic community that has been observing, perhaps guiding, our development for millennia. The cover-up has served those who profit from scarcity, who maintain power through control of energy and information, but it has robbed humanity of its birthright. We've been kept in a state of artificial limitation, told that our current technologies represent the pinnacle of human achievement, when in reality, we may be living in the shadow of capabilities that could solve our greatest challenges. The cracks in this wall of silence are widening. Whistleblowers are coming forward with increasing frequency. Government agencies are releasing previously classified documents. Military officials are acknowledging encounters they once denied. The internet and social media have democratized information sharing, making it increasingly difficult to suppress evidence on a global scale. We are witnessing the slow collapse of the most extensive cover-up in human history. The question is not whether the truth will emerge, but how quickly, and what we will do with it when it does. Will we demand accountability from those who have kept us in the dark? Will we insist on the release of suppressed technologies? Will we prepare ourselves for the reality that we are not alone? The stories the world ignored can no longer be ignored. They represent a fundamental shift in our understanding of reality, consciousness, and our place in the cosmos. As this information continues to surface, we must approach it with both skepticism and openness, demanding evidence while remaining receptive to possibilities that challenge our deepest assumptions about existence itself. The truth is out there, and it's finally coming home.